Warning: the following video contains spoilers to the Final Fantasy XIV Crystal Tower questline. In addition, this video also contains spoilers to the later parts of Final Fantasy III. If you would prefer to experience either of these storylines for yourself, then I would recommend you stop watching now. This is your one and only warning. The Crystal Tower. Originally added to the game in A Realm Reborn, this series of 24-player raids has become almost iconic to Final Fantasy XIV. Sitting in Mordona, it looms in the distance as both a beacon of light as well as an ominous pillar hiding shadows that lurk within. And with Shadowbringers on the horizon, the time has at long last come for us to return to its halls. But what is the Crystal Tower? How did it come to be? And how does it play into Shadowbringers? While the expansion promises to answer many of the mysteries surrounding the tower, there already is some information in the game on it, and we all know I cannot resist botching up a good story. But in order to fully understand the Crystal Tower, we need to go back in time really quick, to a much simpler time in Final Fantasy. Oh, no, hold on, whoops, too far, hold on, let's fast forward a little bit. Okay, yeah, there we go. Final Fantasy III. Hilariously, Final Fantasy III did not come over to the West for a very long time, because even though it was released in Japan in 1990, it did not hit American shores until its 3DS remake almost 16 years later in 2006. And oh mama was it grindy! Ask anybody who's played this game and they'll tell you the grinding involved in the job system almost broke their will to keep playing it. But I mean, hey, at least you can go Dark Knight and almost have your party member die because they were too busy spamming Soul Eater. Despite all the complaints though, I do have a soft spot for Final Fantasy III, but I'm also starting to get off track, and let's be honest, you're not here to hear me talk about Final Fantasy III for too long. What we care about from Final Fantasy III is its final dungeon, the Crystal Tower, and it actually has a lot of tie-ins to Final Fantasy XIV, so let's go into that really quick. Also, before I go any further, I am well aware I am leaving some details from Final Fantasy III's story out of this video. I am focusing on details that carry over into Final Fantasy XIV, so if it seems like I am skipping anything, it is probably on purpose, and I do apologize for that. In the later parts of Final Fantasy III, you meet the sage Doga, who is one of 3 students who were taught by the Archmage Noah. Doga and his fellow students, Yune and Xande, were granted mighty gifts from their master before his passing. To Doga, he granted unrivaled magical power. To Yune, he granted unparalleled control of the world of dreams, and to Xande, he gave the gift of mortality. Yup, that's right, he literally gave Xande the ability to die. I kinda feel like Noah might have been an asshole. As you can probably guess, this made Xande super incredibly cranky, which caused him to throw a big old temper tantrum and use the earth and water crystals to freeze time on the surface world. Knowing Xande is completely unhinged at this point, Doga sends you to awaken Yune from her slumber, upon which she gives you one of 4 elemental fangs, which you need to gain access to the Crystal Tower. The 2 mages also sacrifice themselves in order to empower the Eureka Key, which is used to access a bonus dungeon located beneath the Crystal Tower. And by sacrifice, I mean they literally force you to kill them. After you slaughter your elders and obtain all 4 of the elemental fangs, the Warriors of Light are able to break the seal blocking off the Ancient's Maze, where they find the Earth Crystal as well as this game's incarnation of Titan. Once you are through the maze, you can access the Crystal Tower itself, although if you choose, you can also go into Eureka at this point. While technically Eureka is a part of the Crystal Tower, it doesn't really have any impact on the story of Final Fantasy III, nor is it really featured in the Crystal Tower questline of 14. That being said, many of the enemies that do appear in Eureka, such as Scylla, are a part of the 24-player raids in Final Fantasy XIV, hence why I even mention it at all. Otherwise though, you can begin the incredibly long trek through the Crystal Tower to get to Xande, which is filled with several incredibly powerful and strong mini-bosses and enemies, as well as absolutely no save points. After some weird shenanigans with a mirror though, you can finally confront Xande, who reveals his ultimate plan to harness the other two crystals in order to freeze time worldwide, thus enveloping the world in darkness. Upon killing Xande, though, it's revealed your heroics of light have horribly upset the balance of the world, summoning forth the Cloud of Darkness, who intends to return the world to a state of nothingness, a complete blank slate. While your initial encounter goes very, very poorly, several of your allies from throughout 3 help revive your party before you enter the world of darkness. Within, you find a series of dark crystals, which seal away the Warriors of Darkness, who, much like the Warriors of Light, had to step forward to retain the balance many years ago. They also tie up a bunch of loose ends in the story, including the fact that Xande was under the Cloud of Darkness's control, which is pretty convenient. And then they yeet themselves at the Cloud of Darkness, weakening it so you can kill it. And that's really all there is to say about the Crystal Tower's story outside of Final Fantasy XIV. While it has made a couple of appearances outside of Final Fantasy III and XIV, nothing really major or super notable has happened outside of a couple of brief cameos. So now it's time to fast forward to late 2013. Which marked the release of patch 2.1 in Final Fantasy XIV and the beginning of the Crystal Tower questline. The Crystal Tower's existence was unknown up until the Calamity, where the destruction caused by Bahamut caused it to rise up from the depths of the earth. Seemingly elegant both in structure and in build, it's attracted scholars the world over, all of whom wonder what insight it can give on the workings of the ancient empire. Your adventure begins when you get a hot tip from this totally not suspicious man that the Sons of St. Koinak, a group of archaeologists located in Mordona, are planning an expedition into the Crystal Tower with a little bit of help from our good old pal Sid Garland, which winds up being easier said than done, because there's a barrier protecting the tower. Much like in Final Fantasy III, you need to obtain 4 elemental fangs in order to pass the safeguards surrounding the tower, although in this case you're more crafting them rather than collecting them. Back in the day, this required you to do multiple fates as well as a bunch of busy work in order to get the fangs ready, but as of patch 4.4 you can actually skip all of this. Fast forward a little bit and Sid is getting the elemental fangs ready for use, but not before you meet the final member of your expedition. He introduces himself as Grahatia, one of the junior members of the Students of Baldesion, and has been assigned to the expedition as an observer for the Sons of St. Koinak. Excited to be working alongside the Garland Ironworks, Graha names the expedition Noah after an ancient Allegan archmage. And I'm hoping it's starting to become gradually more clear why I wanted to talk about Final Fantasy III first, and will you two stop giving each other thumbs up? It's really distracting me. Sid sets to work using the makeshift fangs to break down the barriers with resounding success, as well as making a gigantic mess. I mean, honestly, who's gonna clean all that up? And while we're on the subject of cleaning up, Sid asks that you scout ahead, as he has no idea what could be lying in wait, and you already have ample dungeon running experience. Which leads into the very first Alliance raid of this storyline. The Labyrinth of the Ancients. The majority of the enemies and bosses in here are actually from the Final Fantasy III equivalent dungeon, the Ancient's Maze. Nowadays, though, there isn't anything to be too concerned about in this place, considering the dungeon has no item level scaling at level 50. Bone Dragon you can sort of nuke and heal through. Sort of. Holy shit, Please stand on the pads. Holy poor Thanatos, just flail about like a lunatic if you're in Alliance C, and maybe if you're in Alliance B as well, because the boss won't be up long enough for you to get your turn to hurt him. King Behemoth will also most likely melt, so just find the meteor closest to you and hug your friends behind it whenever the big KB throws a temper tantrum. After all of this, though, there is one notable figure you fight at the exit of the labyrinth. Oh, it's Titan! I mean, it's Acheron. But his name's actually Phlegath. Do you even know who you are? So yes, this is Titan from Final Fantasy XIII, but Titan already exists in Final Fantasy XIV, so they had to rename him. His name was Acheron until patch 2.3, when they add Acherons as a trash mob in Circus Tower, so GG, he had to get another name change. Honestly, this poor guy has a huge identity crisis and I really feel for him. Oh, pads by the way. Once you've slain Phlegathon, Grahatia recognizes him as a hero from an ancient Allegan revolution. He also shares that the Crystal Tower was supposedly built to absorb and store energy gathered directly from the sun. With the path to the Crystal Tower now open, Grahatia decides that now is as good a time as any to take a rest, so everybody heads back to camp to figure out the next move. Back at base, Cid shares his concerns, worrying that the Crystal Tower itself may pose a threat and that sealing the tower off may be a better option than exploring it. While Cid decides to study the structure of the tower, Grahatia gets all pouty when he's told he has to stay back at camp. Seriously, look at him go! Meanwhile, 10 million light years from facing Brock, the completely trustworthy man who sent you on this journey to begin with surveys the damage wrought by the Fangs, remarking that he's reading energy on par with the Ultima weapon at the top of the tower. He removes his mask to reveal that he is Nero Skeva, who as it turns out did not die in the Praetorium. Jumping forward to patch 2.3, investigation on the tower has been completely halted because the expedition has stumbled on a door that leads directly into the tower itself, but they have no known way to open it. Luckily, two individuals show up claiming to be well versed in Allegan research and claim to know how to open said door, introducing themselves as Doga and Yune. While everyone finds this to be far too convenient, they do accept the offer of help and are surprised when they actually do open the door. And things only keep getting nuttier when Nero walks up to everyone and reveals that he is still alive. Because of his failures at the Praetorium, Nero reveals that he cannot return to Garlemald for fear of capital punishment, and instead has taken to wandering Eorzea. As we've all learned by now, though, the population of Eorzea is the absolute worst at keeping secrets, and Nero decided to investigate the rumors of the Crystal Tower firsthand. Deciding to change the subject, Nero reveals the now open door could only be opened by those possessing the blood of the Allegan royal family. Now, Doga and Yune could be descendants of that family, sure, but let's think for a minute. We're playing Final Fantasy. That means we've got to make it way more complicated than it needs to be. So in keeping with the spirit of that, clones of Doga and Yune. Nope, I'm not making that up. And as a quick advance warning, we are about to get into some incredibly heavy lore stuff, so get comfy while I poorly explain some Allegan history to you. Several thousand years ago, the once great Allegan Empire was beginning to fall apart, right up until one scientist, named Amon, decided to set about reviving the founding emperor Xande. Thus, he set about perfecting cloning technology, creating Doga and Yune's clones on his path to reviving Xande. Upon being successfully revived, The reborn Xande was intent on conquering the world in his second life, transforming the Crystal Tower into a darkness-fueled research and development facility. The tower did not provide the energy needed to fuel Xande's conquest, however, resulting in him creating the moon Dalamud and using it as a solar array to channel further energy from the sun into the tower below. All of this extra energy was too much to be contained, however, and this caused the fourth calamity, causing massive earthquakes to swallow the Allegan Empire into the earth. Luckily for Xande, Amon was quick on his feet, and managed to freeze time around the tower, thus saving everyone inside. Now, the calamity has not only unearthed the Crystal Tower, but has also awoken everyone inside, Xande included. Fearful of the damage Xande may cause, Doga and Yune wish to stop him, but also realize they are not strong enough to do so. So like literally every other NPC in the game, they came running to you. After all of this, Grahatia also points out that one of his eyes is the same shade of red as Yune and Doga's eyes. Doga says it is a trait shared by Allegan royalty, but that he does not understand why Grahatia could possess that. Either way, he does not consider it a coincidence that Grahatia is present. So once again, while everyone in Noah makes ready to seal the tower, you have to go in and do all the legwork of clearing the place out. The Circus Tower is the second Alliance raid in the Crystal Tower questline, and much like Labyrinth, it is filled with enemies and monsters from Final Fantasy XIII. However, with the exception of Xande, all of the bosses in here are actually from the Eureka dungeon in Final Fantasy XIII, although this game does build on all of their lore. Take Scylla, for example, who on top of being a high-ranking mage, she was also one of Amon's rivals. The scientist tricked her into undertaking his experiments by promising her immortality, but instead replaced her head with several dog heads, animals that she hated. Labrat. Cause you know what? That's what he was. He actually volunteered to be experimented on, which cost him his sanity but also made him one of the strongest generals under Xande's rule. And then there's Amon himself, which really, when you think about it, he's kind of the main villain of this story. I mean, heck, if he hadn't brought Xande back to life, nothing going on right now would have needed to happen. And at the tower's summit, you face Xande himself, which is actually a pretty fun fight. And one little detail I always appreciated about it was the fact that his battle stance is very reminiscent of his sprite from Final Fantasy III. Having now slain the Emperor, your friends catch up to once more congratulate you. Before you make ready to seal the tower, however, Doga and Yune point out a source of dark energy which connects directly to the Void, or as they call it, the World of Darkness. Turns out most of Xande's power came from a pact he made with a high Void Scent, allowing him to call them into Eorzea to fight alongside him. Doga and Yune set to work on breaking this pact, but we still have one Final Fantasy III dungeon left to do, so you can probably guess how things are about to go. Suddenly, a bunch of corrupted clones of Doga and Yune show up, and with actual awful timing, the Echo activates to show you a vision. Much like in Final Fantasy III, Xande in this game feared death. However, he was much more accepting of his fate, and instead decided to open up the gate to the void fully so that the world could be consumed along with him. And guess what? While you're daydreaming, your pals actually exceed expectations and fight people. Whoa! Thankfully, Nero actually had the foresight to come fully armed, so he's able to help fend off the bulk of your attackers up until Doga and Yune start getting swallowed into the darkness. Nero realizes that without them the void cannot be sealed, and attempts to save them, but then he kinda gets sucked in too. Having lost roughly half of your allies, everyone decides to retreat for the time being to come up with a plan of attack. Sometime later, you return to the tower's summit, where the researchers of Noah have been hard at work figuring out how to enter the void. Grahatia suddenly tells you that the excess energy that caused the fourth calamity was actually intentionally triggered by Xande, but then Grahatia also says he has no idea how he has this information, which is kinda weird, actually. While you two have your chat, Sid executes his plan, intending to channel energy from the Crystal Tower in an attempt to reactivate the Void Gate, and wouldn't you know, it actually works. And I bet you can't guess who gets to go inside. Yep, that's right, you do. Oh boy. This time around, though, Grahatia is insistent on going in with you, feeling that it is his destiny to follow you, so you actually have backup this time. Except not really, because he doesn't actually fight anything. Oh. World of Darkness is the final Alliance raid in the Crystal Tower questline, and it lives up to the name despite the fact that the weather is apparently sunny. Huh. All of the bosses in here are actually bosses that appeared in the Final Fantasy III version of the dungeon. For Angramanu, kill all the ads and don't stand in AoEs, with the exception of this AoE, in which case you need to jump back and forth between the white and red halves. Five-headed dragon. Kill the ads, kill the heads, kill more ads, it's just kill everything. And then you get to fight. Oh no! Cerberus is a very tricky puppy, because after a while,
I can break these cuffs.
You can't break those cuffs.
The key to handling this lies in two AoEs the boss will drop. One from an ad that will shrink anyone who stands near it, and the other a pile of goop that will instantly kill any full-size person standing in it. If you are shrunk, however, you will instead go inside of Cerberus, being able to kill ads within its stomach, stunning it and removing all of its damage stacks. And after that, at long last, the time has finally come to reface the final boss of Final Fantasy III, the Cloud of Darkness. Sometimes the cloud will jump to the other side of the arena and you wind up wishing you had access to Onslaught at level 50. And sometimes a person will get targeted by a laser that will chase them around the arena, and 90% of the time they'll die, and it is absolutely hilarious to me. Other than that, though, just fend off ads while you kill this incredibly flashy boss. Upon conquering the cloud, Grahatia rejoins you, although the game doesn't really explain where he's been in relation to you this whole time, but whatever. You reunite with Nero, Yune, and Doga, and Nero is all crystally due to being corrupted by the void. Doga and Yune resolve to stay behind to break the pact once and for all while the cloud of darkness is weakened. But apparently she is not defeated so easily. The cloud cannot truly be killed within the void, and it launches a pot shot at Grahatia, but apparently he's immune to it. Yune then reveals that his protection actually comes from Royal Allegan blood, and that he is the true inheritor and successor to owning the Crystal Tower. Although not a true Allegan, Yune and Doga still share some of their blood with Grahatia, in the hopes that their combined bloodlines can give him full control over the Crystal Tower. This also results in both of his eyes becoming red. You flee along with Grahatia and Nero, while Yune and Doga stay behind to finally bring a close to the Cloud of Darkness's pact. Nero's injuries begin to overtake him and he falls behind, but the pact is broken, cleansing him of the void energy, and right before the door closes on him, Sid manages to save him at the last second. Having safely managed to have returned to the Crystal Tower, everyone celebrates your victory, but Grahatia insists that you and everyone else rest up before he seals the tower. Not long after leaving, however, you learn that this is because he plans to seal the tower alone, with himself in it. Everyone rushes back to the tower in order to get answers, but Grahatia refuses to give them, saying only that his Allegan blood has shown him much, including the destiny that he must now prepare to face alone. Instead, he gives a brief history lesson, explaining that his bloodline was given to his descendants many years ago by the last surviving member of the royal family, Princess Selena. Their combined hope would one day see the Crystal Tower resurface as a symbol of hope and prosperity for the future of the realm. But Grahatia does not believe that they can wait forever for the people of Eorzea to reach the same level of development as the ancient Allegans. This is why, when the realm is finally ready, he will once more throw open the doors to the Crystal Tower, inviting the outside world back inside once more. Realizing Grahatia is adamant in his resolve, everyone wishes him the best and promises to work towards making a future that he can look forward to. And with everything said and done, Grahatia bids his farewells and seals the door to the Crystal Tower. Finally, we see Nero standing outside the tower, lamenting Grahatia's decision before throwing his device into the fog below, never to be seen again. Or maybe it will be. As I said at the beginning of this video, the Crystal Tower has been set as the primary staging ground for Shadowbringers, and who knows what all in this video will be relevant or not. Maybe Nero's device is how we even get to the first shard, and it could be that we're going to be reunited with Grahatia there. And how important are the Allegans to all of this? We know they built the Crystal Tower, but they only existed on the source, so why is the Crystal Tower even in the first shard? Well, at the date of this video being posted, we are but days away from possibly finding out every answer to the questions we've all been asking. Insert obligatory banana joke, because I couldn't think of one for this video. Ever since I did my first TLDR video, many people have requested I cover this story. And while I don't enjoy it quite as much as the MSQ, it's still a fun little enjoyable journey with tons of throwbacks to Final Fantasy XIII. So whether you're a new player or an old one, I hope we all can look forward to the future ahead of us in Shadowbringers. and that the Crystal Tower's symbol as a beacon of hope can extend beyond the confines of Eorzea and into the world around us as well. And I still have no idea how to end these things. Later.